Welcome back to the Omaha Podcast, where Omaha's most successful entrepreneurs help your business grow. I'm your host, Matt Tompkins of Two Brothers Creative, and you already know that networking is essential to growing your business. But how do you network effectively to actually get results with limited time and resources? On today's episode, we are going to turn you into a networking pro with proven techniques and strategies specifically for Omaha that are easy to implement, they don't cost a bunch of money, and they allow you to just be yourself and enjoy building new relationships. Our own Christopher Slater is a networking guru who knows the ins and outs of all the various networking groups in Omaha, and we share what has worked and what hasn't so that you know how to start networking in Omaha like a pro.
So this morning I was working in my office at home, and it was about 8:30 or so, and I was really tuned into what I was doing. What I was doing, I don't remember at this point, but that was hours ago.
Sure, you don't remember.
But I happened to catch out of the corner of my eye, out the window, a vehicle pull out of my driveway and head up the street, and I didn't recognize the vehicle, and so I got up and I went around, checked the door, and sure enough, there was a plastic grocery bag, or I'm sorry, a paper grocery bag with sweet corn, ears of sweet corn in it, and brought it in, and it was from Megan Bankston. And Megan is with PJ Morgan Real Estate, and she's a friend, and she is an absolute rock star real estate agent, and she's also the outgoing president of the Omaha Area Board of Realtors. She knows what she's doing, and this is really just a terrific illustration just this morning of somebody taking the time intentionally to make that personal touch. So what does that tell us about relationships, and what is it that she did? It's taking the time. Welcome to the Omaha Podcast. I'm here with Joseph Kenny and Matt Tompkins, and I'm Christopher Slater.
Intention is a big component. I know you kind of mentioned it, but that's, as we were talking about this, just different stories we're sharing, the intention to make that happen and follow through with that is something we've all seen. I know we all have kind of stories that just stand out, but if you boil it down to the simple first step, it's having the intent.
By the way, I have to say about the bag of sweet corn, my wife was just as excited about the paper bag that it came in.
Of course she was.
Because we needed a new paper bag for our recycling in the pantry. So Megan knocked it out of the park with that one.
Last question though, did you eat all the sweet corn already? Have you already consumed it? Okay.
Tonight.
All right,
it's on the menu. It's on the menu. So she also helped me with my meal prep.
Intentionality is often missed by business owners. We have grand ideas about what we want to do for our customers, the experience that they're going to have, but if we're not intentional about it, it simply won't happen. What separates Megan, and if you're not familiar with her, she is one of the brightest lights in the real estate community. But she's quite intentional about everything that she does, and she truly invests in relationships.
Yeah, I think back to all the things that stand out. Just when you look back you see other people doing it, and maybe at the time you didn't recognize it as that they're making that intention, that extra special touch or next step, going above and beyond. We hear that a lot. That's what it stands out as I look back at like role models, other colleagues, and people in the industries that I've worked in that kind of influenced my, I guess, desire to do that as well, because it really is an investment, and when you're investing in relationships, and Christopher, I think you are like the absolute pro at networking, on this table. He's the networking rock star. Everybody says he's like, Chris is the networking guru.
Because you guys are such introverts. You don't
yeah, we're so quiet. But, intention is important. Networking is like the cool buzzword, and it has been for a while, but it really is relationship building. And I think it would help. I'm fairly new with owning my own business here in the first few years of that. And I know I've had these questions. I think a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners especially have this question, and that's, how do you get started? Like, where do you begin with what seems like an intimidating, daunting task?
That's a great question. And to backtrack just a little bit, going back to when I started networking formally, if you want to say that. It was at Joe's urging, as a matter of fact. So, he had mentioned, oh, you really need to get involved in this, or you really need to get involved in this. Nah, I don't need to do that. But it's because I didn't know what it was. I didn't know. I really had no clue, and it just seemed alien to me to formalize a relationship process. But it actually is a place to start, and then once kind of getting started and getting your foot in the door, that's when you have the opportunity to really meet a wide variety of terrific people. And not everybody that you meet is somebody that's going to help you grow your business, but that's somebody that you're building a relationship with. So, when it comes to networking and actually getting started, it's just reaching out and asking other business owners, what are you doing? Who is it that you get involved with? There's a number of different organizations in town that you can do that with.
Would you say that when you break it down to its simple form, that networking for your business is really the same thing as relationships with friends and people outside of your job? It's in essence a relationship, a connection that you're putting an effort to continue and kind of build on that. And then as you build friendships, I mean, how many times have you had like the Uncle Bob, and he's like, oh, you need your roof cleaned? I know a guy. Everybody knows a guy, right? Yeah. So is that are they similar, or are there similarities there?
If you're doing it right. There's a lot of people that do it wrong, and then it becomes a transactional type of relationship, and that just simply doesn't work in the long term. It might work for that particular transaction, might work for that one account for a period of time, but that's not really truly building relationships. That's just meeting people and having a business transaction. But over time, particularly as you spend more time networking, as we say, it really is relationship building. So, and then we've all heard the adage that people want to do business with people that we know, like, and trust. Mm-hmm. And that's very true. And there's no better way to actually start to lay the foundation than to kind of cast a wide net to begin with, and you have to feel it out. And there's a lot of different ways where it's either a formal meeting that you're meeting with the same people every single week, and you're getting to know who they are and what they do and kind of feeling them out over time. Or there's events, the coffees or the happy hours or socials or whatever it might be, which is a good opportunity just to have conversations with people. It's not about selling.
I think that the soft sell, I kind of described it that way. It's or even a better way to think of it is this is when my coach tells me it's you don't promote, you participate. And even with social media as a tool, a resource at people's disposal, there, participate. Don't just promote, don't just sell. You just be a part of this community or this person's life. And I mean, you see results, and I know, Joe, you've seen results that it may not happen right away, but it may 10 years, 20 years, but it's a big return on that investment, if you want to call it that.
Relationship building and investing in a relationship is a long-term game, if it's a game at all. It starts with being sincere, and it needs to be intentional. Somebody like Megan is trying to connect with people that move or that are buying or selling homes. That doesn't happen often. The average person does move 11.7 times in their lifetime, but you have to catch them on that cycle, and you have to have built a strong enough relationship that they want to do business with you. Yes, everyone knows a realtor that they want to do business with, but not everyone, or everyone knows a realtor that they could do business with, but not everyone knows a realtor they want to do business with. And that's where somebody like Megan shines. A couple of weeks ago, we were given a presentation to an emerging technologies group, and we were asked very pointedly, what are the technological trends that are on the horizon that all realtors should go after? And our answer quite simply was, yes, you have to embrace some of this new technology that's on the horizon, but our recommendation is actually to go back in time and invest back into those relationships. In real estate, there's this term farming, your list or a neighborhood. It's really not farming. It's really investing into relationships. On the small business scene here in Omaha, I can tell you without a doubt, one of the first reasons a restaurant starts to flounder is because they stop investing in those relationships that brought them success in the first place. All restaurant owners start with a dream. They have this storybook ending about how they're going to come out to the table and talk to the family that's stopping by for a slice of pizza. But that doesn't last very long, especially when you get caught up with running a business. You've got payroll, you've got inventory, you've got management, you've got, every business has its challenges, and you start dealing with that, and what's lost is the customer, and you stop investing in the relationships. Recently, we stopped at Virtuoso Pizza in Benson, a terrific pizza joint, better ownership. David Lasoli is a master of investing into the relationship. Yes, he's known all over the United States for slinging pie, and he's really good at it. But he's even better about coming out to the table when he has a chance and touching every single person as he goes along, asking them, what was your favorite pizza that you ate tonight? What would you like to see done differently? Why are you in here? Have you ever been here before? What's your name? And the next time that you come in, he'll do the same thing, but this time he'll probably remember who you were or remember a little bit about you. He's starting to build that relationship, not for right now. He's thinking about the long-term value of every single customer that walks through those doors. We can learn a lot from somebody like David, Megan, or any of the other people that we've met.
So intentionality, making that concerted effort and making it authentic and real.
Be sincere.
Yeah, it can't because that's what. And then I say it's like a relationship. Networking for your business is the same thing as a personal relationship because you have to look at it the same way. If you look at it as, I remember when I got my first one-to-one email. Hey, let's have a 1:1. I'm like, what's this mean? What is this? Is this code? What is this being sent to me with a networking group? And I'm like, and I didn't know what that. And I had to learn what it meant. Obviously, I go home and Wendy's like,
it's a meeting.
What is wrong with you? It's a 1-to-1. It's a meeting. Like, oh, okay, sorry, I'm not up on the vernacular, but we think of it as like, oh, this has got to be this very, just rigid, structured thing, as opposed to just a relationship. And if we treat it like a relationship, that's when they last. I mean, that you talk about finding people that you trust. That's how you build that trust, and it stays with you and that person forever. I mean, really for life.
It does, and I can count, probably on both my hands, the number of times that I've had those one-to-ones that have lasted. You typically block that out for an hour, right? Mm-hmm. And when I have coached people on networking and setting up those one-to-one meetings, I've encouraged them. They don't have to be an hour. It's a lot of pressure for some people, to be able to fill an hour with small talk. Basically, some people just can't do that. Set it up at 30 minutes. But admittedly, I've had them go hours. I had a one-to-one a few years ago where we stopped and paused so I could go get a haircut, and she came along and had a drink while I was getting a haircut, and we went back and had some pizza. So that's not that's building a relationship with somebody. We had the time. So, but it really, just like you said, Matt, it really is about building those authentic business-related relationships. Are no different than building a real relationship, because they are real relationships. And in those meetings, in those one-to-ones, the mistake that people make is just not listening. Yeah. They sit down and still feel like they have to sell. And those that are successful in building those relationships, as in a personal relationship, good listeners.
The good listener, that's key to it. I think any relationship, period.
What'd you say?
I mean, I'm guilty of that. I am the theater kid, grew up just goofing around on camera, the class clown, willing to do anything for attention, and you fast forward to, working in radio, where your job is to just talk and talk and talk. And I find myself doing that, and I'm sure, my brother and Wendy will vouch for that, Matt, you could maybe not talk so much, but it is a value. There is a real value to that, and I try and force myself to stop, listen. Even if you're excited, you want to tell them. Just listening, that's such a crucial component that people, and I myself am guilty of too, where you gloss right over it. And so intent, making it personal and authentic, and listening is another big tip.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is hard for people, because dead air, makes people uncomfortable. And we talked earlier about, how do you get into it, and why is it overwhelming for people? When I say get into it, getting into networking and the first step in building those relationships. A lot of us are introverted, and everybody sitting here, everybody would describe us as extroverted people.
It's not the case.
There's such a thing as an extroverted introvert or an introverted extrovert, and that can be overwhelming for people. So I encourage everybody to just take that step.
I'll go back to sincerity for a moment. We operate a fairly large company, and we get busy just like everyone else. And our original goal was to send out something nice to a set of customers every month. And we've done that for a while. But this past month got a little busier than normal for a number of reasons. So we got a little extra help delivering some of those client gifts. We didn't hear from anyone. And Christopher's observation was spot on. I just posed the question, why do you think we didn't hear from anyone? And he said, because it wasn't us. And there we were, the very company that preaches sincerity and intentionality. We were intentional, but for a moment, we lost our sincerity. And so we'll change. We'll go back to the way we were doing it, and we will deliver those client gifts in person. It makes all the difference.
And it's an investment in time. That's what it is here, was an effort to save time. And we realized that we need to take the time.
Well, the gift. The gift is the time.
Yeah.
Right.
But I will say this, with all of the lessons learned, these tricks of the trade that work. I mean, they're not tricks because they're done with a good, honest intent, but they do work. And the other important thing is they don't cost you any money. It doesn't cost you any money to put that extra effort, to personalize it, to make it a personal face-to-face, a conversation, aside from maybe having to pay for Christopher's haircuts every now and then. But, and I like, Joe, you mentioned early on, I did want to mention this with going back in time. I would always tell students when I was teaching at Iowa Western, I would tell them, they're like, how do we get in the door? And, news and media, and it's such a cutthroat industry. And there are opportunities, but if you're not on their radar, if you haven't had some sort of relationship, they're not going to know you exist. Like, well, I emailed them, I sent them a messenger on Facebook, or I tweeted at them like that. No, that's fine, but you have to do it. You have to makes the extra effort to stand out. And I think we kind of lean too heavy into the easy ways of communicating. And I know from me personally, when I was in school, and I was part of the Omaha Press Club show, and it was this random opportunity to just, I think I was impersonated Tom Osborne on stilts in one skit, and we're just goofing around. But I met all these people, like Rob McCartney, all these, I'm working in radio at the time. I was just starting out, and it was that experience, having a drink in the dressing room and joking around with, Rob McCartney's dad at the time. It built that relationship, and it wasn't built on anything false or phony. It was real. And so now if you want to connect with these people, or you want to ask a favor, or they can help you, it's so much easier and natural for that recommendation to happen.
Listening wise, I've made it a point over the years that upon that first meeting, trying to pick out one item that you hear that would be different about their life, whether they mention an upcoming event, personal interest, an important date, and I make a note, either in a journal or a mental note, and then at the appropriate time, send it back to them. So if I know that somebody's into a Marvel comic, maybe I drop that Marvel comic in the mail, or an important date that's something that should be recognized, but they never thought that somebody on the first chance meeting would remember. And then dropping them a note, even if it is a tweet or a direct message or in Facebook Messenger or a card. I think a little bit more of that could be done. Just surprises people enough to remind them that maybe you're a little bit different than everyone else.
Yeah, you stand out, especially when I think
I know like I'm on the cusp of the millennial generation X. I could be on either team, but I'm still weighing the odds, see which one I want to join here.
We're clearly X.
But I do notice that, like, you're younger, you think, this is, I don't need to do that. That's an old school way of doing it. The reality is not a lot of people, like maybe under the age of 40, are doing those things. So when you do that, that's how you stand out. You'd be shocked and surprised. And I tell people this all the time, that, if you want advice, call the person you look up to, go down to that. For me, it was like a radio station. I went down and I said, it was like me and Tom Becca spoke to my class, one of the few classes I showed up for, fortunately. And he said, well, come on down anytime you want. And I could have just left it at that, but I said, all right, how about now? And he's like, well, I guess. We're going to lunch. I'll go to lunch with you. Let's go. And it was me, and I remember Gary was there and Lucy, and I made these kind of first introductions that led to, I think at the end of that day, they said, well, kid, if you want to come, stick around, we got an internship program. And that's kind of what started my entire broadcasting career. And, had I not shown up for class, right. But also just, not thinking about this as I need something and it's a transaction. It was just, I want to go have lunch. Let's hang out. I just want to learn from you. And you'd be shocked at how many people in big, powerful positions are more than happy to let you buy them a drink, let you buy them lunch, or field a phone call with your advice.
Well, you mentioned earlier, Matt, just picking up the phone and when you're thinking about somebody, and just pick up the phone and acknowledge the fact that you were thinking of them. And it's strange these days, admittedly, to just pick up the phone and call somebody. You almost feel compelled that you have to send a text. Is now a good time for a call? Just pick up the dang phone.
So let's I want to kind of button things up with a few more action items. I know for my position as a kind of a newer business owner, and a lot of people maybe just starting out, or they haven't even made that leap yet, and they're thinking about it. It feels very overwhelming. I mean, with the time constraints, and you're so busy, just blinded by all the things you have to get done and you're behind on. So what would you recommend to that person who's it feels overwhelming, don't even know where to start? There's so many choices and options. Like, what are some just simple, first 3 steps a person can take to get started with investing in relationships?
If somebody's looking to get involved in networking, you don't necessarily need to jump right into a networking group or jumping right into and committing to a meeting, that meets every single week for an hour, because that 1 hour becomes 2 hours of a time investment when you're talking travel to and from and chit chat and what have you. But there are a number of different opportunities via these networking organizations, or the number of chambers of commerce that are here in the Omaha area, the Omaha Chamber of Commerce and the West Omaha Chamber of Commerce, Ralston, Sarpy County. They have social opportunities, whether early morning is your jam and you want to go for coffee, or if they want a social hour. That's a really good place to start dipping in your toes, and you get to meet people on a less formal basis, and just having a cup of coffee, exchanging some business cards. That's really part of the game right there, is just talking to people, and they'll share with you what's working for them, and then take it from there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's always funny at conventions, we pay for thousands and thousands of dollars, companies do, for booth space. And the deals are never made at the booth. They're always made at the happy hour, where you're joking around, having fun, just relaxed, and it's conversational. It is a genuine relationship that you're building there, as opposed to a formal, rigid structure with barriers in between that. So
yeah, years ago I was at a convention, and rather than have a booth and wait for people to come to me, it's like, well, why am I going to pay for the booth space? I'm just going to walk around and talk to everybody at their booth.
Yeah, I know. That's what I said too. After the last one we went to a May, I'm like, let's just get tickets and walk around. This feels like I can save a lot of money,
Our first client in Nashville, it was really important for him to meet us in person. So he didn't sign a contract until we landed in Nashville, went to his office, and we shook hands. And then the deal was done. He grew up in an Amish community, and he told us that relationships were paramount. And it really meant a lot to us. It was a learning lesson that we've taken back over the years, that sometimes you go to those extremes of getting on a plane, flying to Nashville, shaking hands, and then the deal's done. But these aren't investing in relationships isn't about just closing multi-million-dollar deals. I'm shocked at how few of thank you cards that we get for interviews. I would say over the last 3 years, of all the people that have interviewed for positions, maybe 2. And in a strange way, that thank you card is the beginning steps of an investment for a relationship that could provide future opportunities, income, more networking opportunities, a way to broaden their horizons, so to speak.
It's a concrete illustration of time and intent.
Mm-hmm. Time and intent, 2 big components, and we're going to include these in the show notes. And also, I think it would be helpful provide an actual list to all the local networking groups in Omaha. Options for you to get started. I mean, there are a lot of options, but until you have it in front of you and you can actually set that intention to look through and like, okay, what's going to be the right fit? What's manageable for me and for your time now, that's actually realistic, and just start. It starts with 1 coffee, 1 lunch, and let it grow from there. Just like our friendship blossomed.
That's right.
Thanks once again for joining us here today on the podcast. On the next episode of the Omaha Podcast, our guest is Omaha motivational speaker, author, and expert on all things sales, Van Deeb, who will show us the foundation of networking, investing in relationships.